All right, well, God bless you all. And today the topic is your personal time traveler. Your personal time traveler. Sort of like a personal shopper, I guess. And we humans peer into the future. And we want to look forward in time just a skosh so we can gain an advantage in life, so we can beat the odds. And trying to gather information about our future would take a superior being who is not bound by the constraints of time. In addition to the future information, it would take someone or something that can meticulously set up a chain of events in our past so that we can acquire what we desired of Him right now. I know that's a lot to think about, but I'll explain that if you're intrigued. So 2 Peter 3:8 says, "But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day." See, God's had 1,000 years to handle what you need today. Imagine if you had 1,000 healthy years and all the resources of the universe to prepare for and to handle your present situation. You think you could get it done? See, we have access to that. And here's a fun example. You know, we consider our Earth as being special because of its abundant supply of liquid water. We know that our bodies are made up of about 60% water. The Earth's surface is covered with about 71% of water. Water's good. You know, we need water. We like water. See, scientists and astronomers are constantly looking for water on other planets and their moons because without water, there would be no life as we know it. Now, in 2014, researchers from the University of Michigan concluded that 30 to 50% of the water we have on Earth today predates our sun and our solar system. So what does that mean? You know, it means that almost half of the water on Earth today is older than what was originally rationed to our beautiful blue and green planet. That means that this primordial water was brought in from some older place in the universe, or was brought in from some other time. I don't know. You see, God knew we were going to need more water on this planet, so He brought in more water from some place and from some time. You know, what could He do for you? You know, what has He done for you? Since man walked around barefoot and carried a sharp stick, we've asked ourselves the heady question, what will life be like in the future? What will my children face? What kind of world will my grandchildren inherit? Will there be life after death? And if we've been particularly good boys and girls, we will say, what will heaven be like? For thousands of years, people have been thinking about what life might be like in the future. But we know who holds the future. We know who controls the future. It's interesting to note that traveling backwards in time is a relatively modern concept. People always thought about moving forward in time, but backwards is different. It wasn't until the 1800s that anybody even wrote about what it would be like to go back in time. Mark Twain's book from 1889 called A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court was the first fictional book to mention that a time traveler could go back and change history. Mark Twain popularized the concept of do-overs. Now, I know that if given a chance to rewrite history, we would probably screw things up a second time. So it's a good thing we can't go back. We can't go back, you see. But let's leave forward and backward time travel to God. He's got our back. He's perfect. Now today I'm going to try to show you how to gain access to this eternal, time-baffling power a bit more consistently. I want to peel back a layer or two of this great time-bending advantage. And folks, we have an incredible advantage. This will help our believing. We aren't the ones who time travel, but we are well acquainted and well loved by the one who does, God. An abundant supply surrounds you. God, who lives in the past and future, will shake out the heavens and the earth so that you can have more than you need, so that you can have abundance. God can roll back eternity to uncover just what you need. Haggai chapter 2, verse 5 through 8 from the Message. Yes, get to work, for I am with you. The God of the angel armies is speaking. Put into action the word I've covenanted with you when you left Egypt. I'm living and breathing among you right now. Don't be timid. Don't hold back. This is what God of the angel army said. Before you know it, I will shake up the sky and earth, ocean and fields. I will shake down all the godless nations. They'll bring bushels of wealth, and I will fill this temple with splendor. God of the angel armies says so. I own the silver. I own the gold. Decree of God of the angel armies. Now that's pretty dramatic. He's going to shake out the heavens. He owns gold. He owns silver. See, we have intimate access to our Father, and He has unfettered access to all the resources of the past, present, and future. He promised to care for every one of your needs, didn't He? He promised to respond when we believe and act, didn't He? You see, He promised to answer our calls, did He not? He can guide you to your abundance. Are you ready? Are you ready? Do you want it? Writers, thinkers, preachers, philosophers have tried to explain this phenomena of timeless supply by calling it the law of attraction, or animal magnetism, or faith. You see, many have noticed that what we want is out there, and it seems to find its way to us as we move toward it. Most people know this stuff. I think it's time to remember that an unlimited supply awaits us. It awaits you, and that our personal time traveler is God. Now, the odds of chance and work. It takes far more blind chance or wishing. It takes far more than blind chance or wishing if we want to consistently succeed. Now, miracles can and do happen. We've all seen them, but God expects us to follow His lightly used roadmap of success, which we'll call the Word of God. Do you think if you learn to listen to your inner voice just a teeny weeny bit more, you'd be able to tap into that superabundance that's been hidden somewhere in the universe just for you? Think about it. Sure, if you'll only listen and put in enough energy to find it, you can tap into that abundance. God wants us to. The hard part isn't hearing the call of God. The hard part is heeding the call of God. Like I said last week, humans are superior planners, but they're inferior doers. We all have great ideas, but then we just don't get around to it as much as we want. I remember being under my wife's blue Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra one time. I was working under it, and it was balancing on 4 red Kmart quality jack stands, fully extended, wheels off. And while absorbed in my solitary tinkering, getting my cathartic mechanic effect, I heard a loud voice, a man's voice, say, "Roll out now. Roll out now." And so I did. I thought somebody was standing right out there. I rolled out from under that car, stood on my feet. Right then, the jack stands just crumpled and the car went all the way down to the brake drums. I would have been crushed. And I looked around for that person. There was no person. Now, I'm not the guy who hears voices. You know, but it was distinct to me at that time. God protected me the only way He could at that time was with this miraculous voice. Now, I'm sure I'd missed a whole bivvy, a whole article of small voices, still small voices, telling me not to use those stupid jack stands. You know, but I didn't listen, so He had to warn me differently. God will always take care of us if we just listen. As we just read in Haggai, you know, we up our odds as we listen and act upon the word that God gave us. If God can move ancient water from some other place, other time in the universe to care for us on this crazy blue planet, God will shake open the abundance of the universe for you. He'll shake it open. Now, I marvel that a few select words authored by the Creator will guide us to and expose His abundant storehouses to us. I'm amazed that God will open the windows of heaven for us if we will simply believe that He will, and then act accordingly. By the way, I'm authorized to tell you this message. This weekend, millions and millions and millions of people are calling family members for inspiration. And they're asking God for divine intervention. They want Him to give up the perfect order of 6 lucky numbers so they can win $1 billion in the Mega Million jackpot. After all, it's only a 1 in 302 million chance that you win. You feeling lucky? You feeling lucky? I wonder if in our distant past, a knuckle-dragging cave woman tapped her furrowed unibrow, pondering which 6 rocks she should pick to win 10 woolly mammoths. You see, I'll bet she implored some higher power to help her decide. People are doing it all over our country today. You see, now let's look at some numbers here. The odds of having twins are 1 in 250. The odds of getting struck by lightning once in your lifetime are 1 in 12,000. The odds of getting struck by lightning twice in a lifetime are 1 in 9 million. The chance of getting killed by a shark is less than 1 in 264 million. The chance of getting killed by a vending machine is twice as likely than that of being killed by a shark, yet we have no fear of vending machines. There's no movies about vending machines attacking us, yet twice as many people die by vending machines than by shark attacks. The chance of picking the correct 6 numbers and winning the mega jackpot is 1 in 302 million. There are about 325 million people in the entire United States. What are the odds? With those odds, is it any wonder that we seek outside help? Now, I've never known anybody that God told them what the numbers were, but everybody asks God. They go to witches, they go to seances, they go to talk to spiritualists. Everybody wants to. Whatever they dreamed the night before, and it never works. You see, did you know that the chance of becoming a millionaire by starting your own business are only 1,000 to 1? That means that out of every 1,000 people who start a business, 1 of them will put in the time and work to become a millionaire. Now, that's not bad odds. Those are odds I think I could do something about. You know, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want $1 million or 500,000 or 10 million? God doesn't care. In a minute, I'll tell you how big the universe is, but most people just pray and hope the fairies of finance will magically rain riches down upon them, or just give them the 6 lucky numbers. You see, I know that most people would much rather win $1 billion in the lottery instead of putting in the work to earn it. Both are possible, but riches from working hard can be scheduled. You can schedule in $1 million if you really want to. You see, you can't guarantee that you're going to pick the lucky numbers, but you can guarantee you're going to show up for work every day. You can guarantee how many sales calls you're going to make every day, or should make every day. I'll talk to myself here. You know, you can decide to stay positive. Doesn't that help? Sure it does. You can lean on the promises of God. You think that might help? Sure. God asks us to ask, but He also expects us to act. Isn't there a book of the Bible called the Book of Acts? You know, James 2:18 says, I will show you my faith by my works. James 1:22. Now James was the half-brother of Jesus, just so you know. He said, be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. You think Jesus taught his brother something about action? About putting in the time and work? 2 Timothy 1:7 says, for God gave us not the spirit of fear, but of power and love and self-control. Self-control is controlling what you think and what you do, right? God gave us that power. Ecclesiastes 9:10 says, whatever your hands find to do, do it with your might. If you're going to do something, then put your heart into it. Put your energy into it. Don't go half-ass at your job or your love or your study, whatever it is. God repeatedly said He will supply all our need and then rain down abundance upon us. We've also seen that the hardest workers are usually the luckiest. So how does this time-traveling God thing work anyway? It's a weird concept, I get it. I'm bringing up this catchy topic of time travel for a reason. And I'm happy to say there is no time machine, nor is there a tinfoil hat that's yet been built that's going to allow us to go back and forth in time and make the same mistakes twice. Or mess up history even worse. You see? But we do have access to a being, to God, who is not limited by space, time, or mistakes. In simple terms, the moment we convince ourselves of the vastness of our God and we begin to move in that direction, we set off a magnetic chain reaction that ripples through time and space. All the power of the universe, all the power of God will work century after century to make sure you get what you believed for right now. God has had all the time in the world to help you get that $1 million. But if you're not believing, then he didn't set it up in the past. It has to be there, folks. If He promised healing, don't you think the same thing is true with healing? It's got to be. Now, it's sad that some people don't get healed. I get it. You see, but the point is, it's promised. So it has to be there. So there's something that we may be missing. Hebrews 11:6 says, but without faith, which is conviction or believing, it is impossible to please Him. For he that cometh to God must believe that He is, and that He is a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. See, it pleases God to reward your diligence. It pleases God to reward your diligence. That's what He'll reward. Now, sure, miracles can happen. I get it. We've all seen them. I've seen them. You see, but usually it's believe in His work. It's action, it's conviction, it's expectation. You see, 1 Corinthians 10:13 from the Message says, no test or temptation that comes your way is beyond the course of what others have had to face. All you need to remember is that God will never let you down. He'll never let you be pushed past your limit. He'll always be there to help you come through it. Now, how can God promise that unless He has the ability to work in our past? Think about it. How can God circumvent our limits if He's not in our past, present, and future? How? It's not possible, folks. Isaiah 57:15 says, "For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity." I mean, people knew this a long time ago. How big is eternity? Eternity spans all time and space at the same time. How big do you have to be to live in eternity? The past, the present, and the future. How big do you have to be? God is so big that it takes an eternity to house Him. He's so big that it takes all eternity to house Him. And He has access to all those little planets and stuff. 1,000,000 years ago and 1,000,000 years in the future. Right now. And you're telling me you can't believe for something? And you're a child of this God that inhabits eternity? According to the International Building Code, a comfortable standing space is 5 square feet per person. That means we all want this kind of space around us. 5 square feet per person, unless you live back east or in Italy or in Japan. You ain't going to get 5 feet. They're going to be right in your face, right up in your grill. You see? The largest person on earth couldn't come close to filling this room. Couldn't come close to filling the car that you're listening to this audio in. You see? How big is the universe? How big is the universe? Not just the universe, but the universe throughout all time. Now, these are hard concepts to grasp, but that's how big the God that we serve is, the God that loves us is, the God that promised us abundance. You think He could supply abundance if we always say He owns the universe, but just say He lives in it, He dwells in it, He dwells throughout all time. God fills all time and all space, past, present, and future. He wants nothing more than to bless us, and He's big enough to do it. He knows exactly how you work. He knows exactly how you think. Now, to try to show scale here, it took 6 years for a probe from Earth to reach the planet Mercury, which is only 2 planets away. 6 years. Now, they had to go around the sun and the moon. They had to do some kind of trajectory thing to make it, because Mercury moves so fast. They had to do a lot of science, but still, 6 years for that first probe to reach it. Now, just this year, astronomers have located what they feel is the furthest galaxy from Earth. And it is 5 billion light years away. 5 billion light years away. The light we see, the light those astronomers caught in that telescope, is 5 billion years old. That's crazy talk. You see? It would take 5 billion years traveling at the speed of light to reach that galaxy. Yet God is there right this second, and He's here. And He's in your future, and He's in your past. How big is God? How limited is God? How limited is God? What I'm saying is it's limitless, folks. That's the whole point of this teaching. You see, think about how many resources are in this universe. If God moved water here from some other time and space, you think He might have moved some other things here when it was needed? I'll bet it did. What if just that exact right nutrient that's way over 5 billion light years away was necessary for your healing? You think He could bring that here? Yeah. What if it was only available 1,000,000 years ago? You think He could still bring it here today? That's how big God is, folks. I know you're thinking I'm a nut job, talking like this. But this is how I see it. This is how I see it. This is how God sees it. This is how God wants us to see Him. Ephesians says that we were chosen before the foundation of the world, the foundation of this earth, the foundation of this age. And in a sense, we have always been with God. Isn't that crazy? It's really not even just in a sense. God has never been without us because He lives in the past, present, and future. God is already with us way in the future. After the return of Christ, God is with us back before we never existed, before man existed, before the earth existed. Yet we were with Him. You know why we're with Him? Because He fills all time. Does that make more sense to you now? People say, well, that was in His foreknowledge. No, that's in His real knowledge. Because God is now and He is way back then, right now. Does that make any sense? Not really, but no, I'm just kidding. It makes sense to me, but I'm a little crazy. So, He's never been without us. God has never been without you. God will never be without you. That's why He can say, I will never leave you nor forsake you. He can't. He can't. Even if He wanted to. I don't know. You see, you are as necessary. You are as necessary as any one of those planets or galaxies that's out there to the existence of what's happening on this earth. You're just like He made all that stuff, He made you. You see? And so you're just as necessary, and you're just as necessary at times for other people. You ever had somebody tell you just the exact right thing at the right time? It's like, whoa, man, how did they know I needed to hear that? Or sometimes you just heard the right song at the right time on the radio. How did that happen? Or you're walking down the street, and then you just saw somebody you just thought about. How's that happen? I know a lot of things are running through your head now, things that just miraculously happen, coincidentally happen. I've had so many coincidences in my life, I don't believe in coincidence anymore. I believe in God. So it's amazing stuff, folks. Mark 9:23 says, Jesus said unto him, if thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. All things are possible to him that believeth. So you think whatever believing is might be a key to tapping into the limitless resources of the Creator? Now, believing is conviction, persuasion, reliance, trust, faith, and expectation. Just because you had a definition you were taught in Sunday school or in some church sometime, think about what does it mean? It's a huge word, but it means everything in you. It's total conviction. It's a full persuasion. It's total reliance. It's absolute trust. It's faith. And it's an unwavering expectation. You see, how can God know what will happen in the future if He doesn't already live there? Think about the revelation of the Apostle John. The book of Revelation. That's some crazy stuff. You see, think about what Paul saw. And God said it's just for you. Don't tell anybody. It was just to keep him going. What about Ezekiel and Isaiah and Jesus? Remember what I taught a couple of weeks ago about Psalm 22? Jesus saw into the future, way into the future, saw us in the future. How did He do that? Because God lives there. So God can just send a vision down. It's so easy to God. It's so easy to show you what you need to see. See, not only is God so big that He inhabits eternity, but He has all the time in the world to bless, rescue, and heal us. Do you believe it? Are you convinced? God knows what you need long before you need it. He's been working hundreds of years to help you get that one contract. He's been working thousands of years for that sale. He's been working millions of years for your healing. If you have that conviction now, then all that stuff gets set into motion way in the past. So call it what you want. Call it God. Call it animal magnetism. Call it the law of attraction. I don't care. God doesn't care. Just believe. You see, once again, let's look at the quote from Peter, one of Jesus' apostles, about God who has 1,000 years to help you through your today. 2 Peter 3:8 says, "But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day." God has 1,000 years to work in your day. Now that's a lofty concept for people without clocks. They didn't have clocks then. They didn't have day planners and smartphones and atomic clocks in their bedrooms, you see. But a day is as 1,000 years, as 1,000 years as a day. I mean, they got it. Peter understood this. Wasn't he a guy who walked on water? Can you walk on water? No, people aren't supposed to walk on water, but he did because he saw Jesus do it. If he could do it, I could do it. He did it for a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds, right? Till he went down, and Jesus had to drag his soggy rear into the boat. You see? I mean, how do you do stuff like that? You hear about people doing miraculous feats of strength sometimes. A mother, car tips over. My mom told me this when I was a little kid. She had a friend who had a small car and had a kid in the car, and the car rolled and tipped over. And that mother in her high heels flipped that car back over. How does that happen? Who has that kind of strength? Not that lady. I can't flip a car over. You see? But I mean, had to be God. Think about the things that you've seen in your life. I remember me and Josephine, when we were going to college together, we had this challenge to hitchhike 1,000 miles and back. And we had $15. And you couldn't ask anybody for money, and if you spent it, you had to come back with it. It's a crazy challenge. So on the way back, we were almost back to our campus, and somebody had spent $5 on coffee. And so I wanted to replace that. I didn't want to fail at this game. There was nothing at stake except for reputation. And so we were trying to hitchhike. We were at this huge truck stop. Nobody. And most of the trucks were gone. The parking lot was acres big. And so we were walking across with our backpacks across this parking lot, and all of a sudden this guy appeared behind us. Handsome guy. And he tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around, and he said, "You kids need some money?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "How much you need?" I said, $5. He pulled out this big wad of money, and he peeled off a $5 bill, handed it to me, and then he said, "You kids don't think that there isn't good on this earth." And then he turned around and started walking away. We turned around and started walking. A second later, I was going to yell, "Thank you." I turned around, and there was nobody there. Either he's the fastest runner on earth, or God sent this guy to give me $5. Then my wife asked me, "How come you didn't ask for more?" I'm just not that smart, I guess. You see? But all I needed was $5. So, a day, how does God do that stuff? I don't know. You could say, well, this guy's crazy. God talks to him and people appear. Well, I don't know. Maybe I am. But I'm happy. So it's a lofty concept. You see, if you had 1,000 years to prepare for one event, or fix one problem, do you think you could do it? 1,000 years. 1,000 years to prepare. Wasn't it Abraham Lincoln that said that if he had, I don't know the hours, but if he had 6 hours to cut a tree down, he'd spend 5 hours sharpening his axe. You know. So the point is we need a sharp axe to cut a tree down. Or you're going to just why waste 6 hours when you could spend one? You see? If you had 1,000 years to prepare for one event or fix one problem, do you think you could do it? Sort of like that movie Groundhog Day. Except for they redo that day over and over until they get it perfect. Well, we don't have to do that. All we got to do is tap into God, and He'll take care of it for us. That's pretty good. That's a secret shopper. Okay? We don't need to repeat our day. We just need to repeat our belief in God, our expectation in God. See, God time travels to supply our each and every need as we believe, as we act, as we move toward what we want. Now, this next concept is going to be a doozy. Exodus chapter 3, 13 and 14. And Moses said unto God, Behold, when I come unto the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, The God of your fathers has sent me unto you. And they shall say to me, What is His name? And I shall say unto them, and God said unto Moses, I am that I am. And He said, Thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. Now Christians go nuts on that, okay? But I am is a Hebrew word, Haya. Haya, which means to be, to become, or to exist. God exists for you. God exists for you. God is saying, I will be what you need me to be. I exist for you. Now, have the courage to live bigger. See, now actually it's a good lesson for us too, if you think about it, exist. Live now. Live your own life. Live the life that God designed us to live, designed you to live. You ever work for somebody else, and you realize you're not living your dream anymore. You're living somebody else's dream. You see? Or we're a part of some group where you did that. You did everything they said, and then you realize, I don't want to do this no more. I want to do something else. I want to do what I want to do. I want to do what God called me to do, not what God called them to do. Have the courage to live bigger. Haya! Exist by believing you deserve it. Hebrews 4:13, neither is there any creature that's human, animal, spirit that is not manifest in His sight or able to be seen by God, but all things are naked and opened unto the eyes of Him with whom we have to do. Ephesians 1:4 again says that God chose you before the foundation of the world. He even knew about all our dirty laundry billions of years ago, and He still chose us. God knew about that thing that you did that time, and He still loves you. He still chose you. He still spends an eternity with you. God knows everything about you, and He still loves you. It's some wild stuff. I once had a friend who seemed like this girl just seemed to prosper all the time with jobs, with everything. She'd call into a radio talk show and she'd win tickets. She'd walk into a store, they'd give her a couch. It was like boom, boom, boom. It was like over and over. She'd be walking down the street, people would give her professional tickets to the professional ball team from the city I was living in. And one time I said, man, that's some crazy stuff that happens to you. That's amazing. And I said, how does that happen? She goes, I expect it. I was raised to expect abundance. She said, expect abundance, you just might get it. I started thinking, boy, now she worked hard too. She worked hard, but hey, you get it. You see, expect abundance, you might just get it. God can make sure of that. Remember, He's bigger than 5 billion light years away right now. And He's here. And He's in your future. And He's in your past. There's no limit to God. There's no limits. Let's stop limiting God. Let's open it up. Let's open up our understanding. See, so in closing, well, first off, God has all the time in the world to get you everything you need. But in closing, we've always wanted to peer into the future. Most people always have. You see, God has 1,000 years to handle what you need today. And we have intimate access to our Father who has unfettered access to all the resources of the past, present, and future. He promised to care for every one of our needs. He promised to respond when we believe and act. He promised to answer our calls. He can guide you to your abundance. Are you ready? Are you listening? Are your eyes open? Do you really want it? Do you have conviction? Do you have believing? Do you have expectation? Let's remember that an unlimited supply awaits us and that our personal time traveler is God. God bless you.